All right, Entree Architect community, it's 4 p.m. Eastern, which means it's time for the Entree Architect Context and Clarity Live session for, what day is this? Thursday, April 29th, 2021. Thanks for joining us today. As you can tell, it must be Thursday because Katherine and I are here together. If you have been tuning in all week, it's just been Katherine this week. So Hi, Katherine. Thanks for inviting me.
Jeff. I'm so glad you're back.
I am. I'm happy to be back. Happy to be out of where I was. It's good to be here. We're going to, because of everything that's happened this week. For those of you that haven't heard, I had jury duty this week, and that sort of threw a wrench into all the plans that we had for this week. So we decided to accelerate our planning for a feature that we're trying to roll into Context and Clarity here to sometime soon. And so we're going to try that out today. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But as you're coming in, say hi. Great to see all of you popping in, whether you're on Facebook or LinkedIn, YouTube. I know there's a lot of you out there on Twitch, so welcome to all of you. Say hi when you get here. Let us know where you are joining the conversation from. My name is Jeff Echols. I come here every weekday afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern for one reason, so that we can find clarity around the things that matter most to you. Most of you are probably architects, and so these conversations, it doesn't matter if you are the employee of a firm. Maybe you've circled a date on the calendar and you said 2021 is my year and you're getting ready to start your own thing. Or maybe you've had a firm for, 25 years or 26 years or 27 years. And you're starting to rethink or reimagine what that firm could or should be. Wherever you are, whatever you do, all of these conversations, we cover one topic every day. They're all the need to know topics for the success of small firm architects just like you. I'm joined as always on Thursdays by Katherine Mcphail. Hi, Katherine. Where are you?
Jeff, where am I?
Where are you?
That's a hard question. One answer would be I'm in Massachusetts.
Okay.
Is that
you are here?
Was that the right answer? I'm here
Sure.
with you. I'm a lot of things, I guess. But who else is here with us? Who I see that John Kinney is listening to us driving home from his job. So that's nice. We haven't seen him in a while.
All right, John Kinney, welcome back. I see Don Duncan, friend of mine from up there in the region, Northwest Indiana. Glad you're joining us today, Don. Great to have you. Here's that little link. If you are on Facebook, all right, so right now we are streaming live inside the Entree Architect Community Facebook group. We are streaming live to LinkedIn Live, YouTube Live, and Twitch live stream. If you are in Facebook, it's a private Facebook group. And so by the terms of privacy, Facebook is not allowed to release your information to the world. So if you're commenting from Facebook, all we see is Facebook user, perhaps on the screen. One way that you can help us out if you'd like. I see Ryan is already connected. I see Chris Novelli is already connected. You can connect your account. You can allow Facebook to speak to Restream, which is the platform that we use here, by going to the link that you see on the screen right now, chat.restream.io/FB, which, as you may have guessed, stands for Facebook. But you can allow Facebook to talk to Restream, and then we can see your name. And we can say hi. Exactly. Don't drive and type. That's sort of like texting and driving. So if you're in Facebook, if you're willing to do that, if you want to do that, you can go ahead and do that. Amy Baker, welcome back from Michigan. See John Jones out there. I saw Brian McCartney out there. Lots of folks joining us today. So hello to everybody. Scott, we see you over there in sunny San Francisco. Glad you're joining us. And Tony Roberts from Auckland, New Zealand. All right. Welcome from the future. Where Tony is, it's tomorrow already. So thanks for joining us from the future, Tony. Glad that you're here with us. And that's part of the fun of finding out where everybody is right now. It looks like we're spanning all the way from California to New Zealand. So that's, depending on which round you go around the globe, it's a pretty long trip. So thank you all for joining us. And I need to say a special thank you to Katherine for hosting all of these sessions, both on Clubhouse and our afternoon sessions here with Context and Clarity all week. So thank you for that,
Well,
Katherine.
you're welcome. I have a appreciation for your job now. I had
Katherine
one before, but now I really do.
Katherine says she wants my job, I think.
No, I don't. No, you're safe.
Well, you can have it on it.
No, it's okay.
But I do appreciate it, having been locked away in a jury room all in courtroom all week. It's nice to know that all of you are in the capable hands of Katherine and continuing these conversations and continuing to build this community. And that's what it's all about, which I think is a great segue to our guests, our feature for today. Like I said, I saw Christian's name on the screen a minute ago. Christian Nielsen Palacios on the screen. A few weeks ago, Christian said, "Hey, what if we had members of the Context and Clarity community as guests, so we got to know each other even better?" Because most of the time, as you know, you see me on the screen and I'm reading your comments, and we're communicating back and forth, which is fantastic. The level of engagement on these conversations is fantastic, but we don't generally get to see each other. From my perspective, and Katherine experienced this week, this is pretty much an hour of me sitting and looking at myself and talking to myself and reading your comments. It's a little bizarre, right?
It is bizarre. It really is.
It's
A lot of pressure.
from this side of the screen, it's a little strange. So why not get to know the Context and Clarity community? And this really has, I think, blossomed into a community, which is thanks to. So why not get to know the community better? So today we've got 3 guests with us. And we're going to make this a regular feature, I think, where we bring on, we spotlight people from the Context and Clarity community. We get to know each other a little bit better. We hear some origin stories, and then you can ask questions. We'll turn it into an Ask Me Anything session here in just a few minutes. So if you're listening right now on the podcast version of this, maybe Monday, what's Monday's date? May 3rd or later. We're going to feature 3 guests from the Context and Clarity community, all 3 architects. I'll introduce them here individually, but and then kick off a conversation with everyone as a group. So again, thanks for joining us today. As you come in, say hi, let us know that you're here. Let us know where you're coming into the conversation from. And again, this is the Entre Architect Context and Clarity Live session for Thursday, April 29th, 2021. Believe it or not, we've pretty much made it through, well, one more day, right? One more day, and then we will have made it through another month.
That sounds a little like you're looking forward to getting through another month, Jeff.
Yeah.
It's been a long month, I guess.
It's good to have goals.
Well, you've almost made it.
Almost made it. All right. With that, let me introduce our first guest. Our first guest today is a woman. She's a mom, she's a caregiver, and she's an architect. She's an author and a podcaster and the creative behind I've Never Met a Woman Architect Before. Michele Hodo, welcome to Context and Clarity Live.
Hi, Jeff. Hi, Katherine.
How are
Michele.
you today? Awesome.
Have you recovered? Have you recovered from your vaccine, Katherine?
I am almost totally better. Good? I have almost feel better, yeah. Much better than yesterday, which was not great.
Yesterday was my second vax 2 weeks past.
So congratulations.
Okay.
I had to have a glass of wine to celebrate that at the Hotel Del.
Well, it's good to celebrate that, and like I said, I've spent the entire week on jury duty. This was the first jury trial, in-person jury trial. I didn't know that going in, but for a year they haven't been doing in-person jury trials in Indiana. So well, what a milestone! But we talked about that. Wouldn't it be nice if we all had our vaccines and we didn't have to have this courtroom spread out, and everybody with masks on and things like that. So maybe we'll get closer to that as everybody starts to get their vaccine. For those of you that don't know, obviously Michele is an architect. She's in La Mesa, California. So where's that? Near San Diego?
Near San Diego.
Outside of
Yes.
San Diego.
Yes.
So
the first incorporated city east of San Diego.
okay. There you go. There's your trivia for today, everybody. First incorporated city east of San Diego. It's a good thing it wasn't west of San Diego, or we might call it Atlantis or something. So in a sentence or two, Michele, what are you working on this week?
So I was up in an attic yesterday. And then I had to go out in the and then I got a ton of weeds on my my shoes. So that's an addition to, I had to verify some structural members up in the attic for the new roof that's going to go on. And tomorrow morning I have I've got a meeting about these 4 houses that I'm doing in a zone tract. And
In the San Diego area?
what else? Yes, in La Mesa. In La Mesa.
Okay.
Yeah.
East of San Diego.
Yes. And then Monday night I was with the founders of the Mothers in Architecture Facebook group.
Nice.
So we're doing a podcast for Mother's Day. So we were talking about what things not to get people for Mother's Day.
Oh, that's cool. Can you share that list here later?
Yeah. No, I mean, I can even put it, no self-help books, right? No self-help book. Even if people ask for it, don't give them a self-help book, or maybe clothes that they didn't try on, because maybe we might be a little bit bigger than we were, and we don't want to find out on Mother's Day. So
fair enough. I found that out this week.
There was a doormat actually that I saw online afterward. There's a doormat that says "mom" on it, and we were thinking that probably is not the best. That's not one of the best gifts.
No, that's got to be a joke gift. Is that a joke?
No, it was in like a major.
I don't know. That's got to be a joke, Michele.
Anthropology. It was anthropology. It wasn't.
It's like my mom's a doormat, and you give her a doormat. That is so not nice.
Are you sure? Are you sure it wasn't just upside down?
Oh yeah, it probably was upside down, because mom is wow upside down. Whenever my kids went to dance class, they got a tattoo that said wow. Like, oh, you got mom. Like, wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Anyway.
let me introduce our next guest. We're just going to keep adding to the screen here. So hold on to your hats, everybody. We've been trying to break the internet for a while, simulcasting these all over the internet. Now we're going to try to break Restream itself. So with that, let me introduce our next guest. So our next guest today, we've got a mom now, or 2 moms actually now on the screen, and we're going to introduce a dad. He's an architect and an activist. He's a designer and a builder in the sticks of northern Vermont, 20 minutes south of Canada, and the founder of Great Blue Heron Studio Architects, Jay Caroli. There he is. There's Jay. Welcome to Context and Clarity Live, Jay.
Hi. It's
what are you doing this week?
Fun to be here. I hang on a second. Let me take a breath.
I can't stop laughing that no clothes on Mother's Day. We're wearing clothes on Mother's Day. It's just no clothes. Because that wouldn't be a Mother's Day. But anyway, so we're wearing clothes on Mother's Day. Don't buy clothes. Don't buy clothes for your mother on Mother's Day.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. I'm glad we cleared that up.
Chris,
I think it's okay. Honestly, it's okay not to wear clothes on Mother's Day too. That's your choice.
Where do you go from there?
This is going to be too much for me to read. I have to read and...
No, you don't have to read. You just talk about yourself now, Jay.
Well, and I read... Michelle's going to be laughing about no clothes on Mother's Day.
No. I want to listen.
We're demonstrating the fact that you shouldn't be reading.
Well, there was some stuff up there a minute ago that nobody should have read. and it
I
looks
think,
like they are gone.
Katherine took care of that.
Of what? The troll guy? I was not paying attention, and he was saying some things that shouldn't have been said.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Katherine's our troll killer.
Yeah, except for I forgot how to kill trolls, but I got it again. So if I'm ready for the next one.
Bring him. What's
Bring
going
him
on,
on.
Jay?
So this morning, a neighbor's cow had a calf 2 days ago. So I went over and picked up 5 gallons of milk for my pigs.
What? I did not think you were going to say that, Jay.
Well, yeah, that's why I said it. That's my week.
But that's what architects do in the sticks of Vermont.
When you're this far north and you're this rural, this is what you do. Yep. You've got to slop the pigs.
I didn't know pigs drank milk. I guess they do.
They'll eat anything, Katherine. And fresh cow's milk is a treat. And everyone has said that your pork will taste like what you fed your pigs. So if you're giving your pigs fresh cow's milk, you're going to get the sweetest pork you've ever had.
But you have to eat the pig to get that, which is kind of sad.
You can just lick it, but
oh God!
Why can't you just drink milk if you want something that tastes like milk?
Sure.
Well, anyway, you could just go straight for the milk.
That seems pretty basic, really. I mean, honestly.
Hey Jeff, I thought we were doing origin stories.
We're going to get to origin stories in here in just a second. Let me introduce our final guest for the day. The last guest that I need to introduce today is an artist, and he's a mandolinist. Mm-hmm. He's an architect and a bluegrass aficionado, and he's in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. James Polk. Welcome to Context and Clarity.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Glad you're joining us. How's your week going, James?
Going good. It's busy, but that's good, right?
It is good. Any cows or pigs?
No cows or pigs. Okay. Just humans on this end. A dog, a greyhound.
Okay. But just to be clear, you're not eating them, right?
As a matter of fact, Katherine, no, I'm not eating them because I'm vegan.
Ah.
There you go.
So, or 99-point-something%. Yeah, I'm a health vegan. My wife's an ethical vegan, which means eating the pig is like eating your grandmother.
Well, not that your grandmother's a pig, but yes, I know what you mean.
But I joined in for health reasons and never went back.
Nice. Very nice. So here's an interesting bit of trivia for all of you that are out there watching and listening to this right now. I'm looking at the screen now with these 4 folks, and every single one of them is a musician. So we were before we went live, as I introduced James, I talked about the fact that he's a mandolinist. I actually had to look that up. What do you call someone that plays a mandolin? There you go. There's a mandolin. Jay has, I see at least 2 necks behind him, I think. So Jay's got guitars and other stringed instruments. Michele pulled out a flute.
Yeah.
Katherine has there you go. Katherine has a fiddle, or probably 6. And so I'm thinking that at some point this may break into some music, but the only thing I have is an old, first generation iPod. So
we need people to listen to music as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So music and architecture are very similar. Lots of commonalities. In fact, Frank Lloyd Wright called his buildings symphonies in stone.
Yeah. And
listened to Bach and Beethoven. Put a speaker up in Romeo and Juliet windmill and broadcast it over the valley of the God Almighty Joneses in Wisconsin.
Yeah,
Spring Green.
Yep.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So
I did a podcast with Vern Swaback, and he was talking about how that Mrs. Wright used to make him sit down and play the piano because he played so well.
Mm-hmm. Well, the first tour I took of Taliesin, there was a hand went up of a 9-year-old kid whose dad was a concert master in coincidentally the Jackson, Mississippi Orchestra, and his hand went up after the tour, and he asked the docent, "Why is there a piano in every room?" I don't remember the answer, but the question said it all.
Nice. Very nice. So how, speaking with all this tied together, you're all musicians of some sort. Was there, for you, James, was there some sort of tie with your origin story of music and architecture, or are they just sort of parallels or something?
Well, there was it was more of a toggle. When I was in high school, I always loved to draw, and I was mesmerized by skylines and cityscapes. And so I was very interested in architecture, but I was very interested in music as well, in choral music, but also band. And so I was looking at, okay, is it music or architecture? And I made the decision that I could go into architecture, and music could be an avocation. And as it turned out, the music really does, especially the more I get into the music and the study of like, for me, Bill Monroe, who is the father of bluegrass, invented, amalgamated the genre from mountain music and jazz and swing and blues, and put it together for a new language in music. Well, similar to Frank Lloyd Wright, and well, Bill Monroe and Frank Lloyd Wright both had about a 70-year career of creating their art, and they kept reinventing themselves as they went along. I mean, Bill Monroe's music, they wrote when he was 75, is much different and more developed than the music when he was 25, 35, 45. And same with Mr. Wright. People sometimes say, I've had people say to me, I'd like for you to design a Frank Lloyd Wright house. Well, that's impossible because I'm not Frank Lloyd Wright. And if I did copy a Frank Lloyd Wright building, it would fall flat because it would just be a monkey parody of something. It would be a cartoon. It wouldn't be a real building because his buildings belonged where they were on the ground in that specific piece of ground. So if you take it anywhere else, and like for instance, Taliesin in Wisconsin and Taliesin West in Scottsdale, Arizona, completely different buildings, but both spring out of the natural setting. Everything lush and green in Wisconsin, everything hard-edged and dry in the desert, and the manifestation came out of that. So for me, music has been important. The deeper I dive into music, the more I understand architecture, I think. And I have a little side project that I've been working on a little bit called Symphonies in Stone, the architecture of Frank Lloyd Wright and the music of Beethoven, which is kind of slowly making some progress, but we'll see where that goes.
That's interesting. Jay, do you have a similar story, since you have all the stringed instruments in the background, or what's your connection with music and architecture, if any?
I was really enjoying listening to James talk. But Mike, so I've always loved music. I've had guitars since I was, I guess we had to get a mandolin or a ukulele first because I was too small for a guitar. I'll throw this out there just because James is here, but I've played on the main stage at Gray Fox.
Oh yeah. Who else knows what that is?
Well, that's why I'm
great
throwing
festival
it out for you.
Great bluegrass festival.
And my connection now
Used to be. Go ahead. Used to be Winterhawk. Used to be Winterhawk years ago.
and there still is a Winterhawk, right? Didn't it? We can get into this.
Yeah.
Because nobody else knows what we're talking about. So my connection to instruments is for. So I held up a saxophone, and I look at a saxophone, and I'm amazed at, it has to start and stop in the right place. I don't know where my right.
There you go. Perfect.
And it has to have all the keys have to be the right size and the right shape and the right place. And it's beautiful. I find all the instruments beautiful. Michele held up a flute. The guitars are beautiful. I've got banjos and all kinds of other instruments in the other room, and I collect them not because I'm a great musician, but because I really enjoy the aesthetic beauty and the functionality of them, and maybe that's the tie to architecture.
That's interesting, and I know a little bit about Jay. You're up there in Vermont, and fairly rural area, right? And we've talked about barns and things like that before. Is that a tie? Is it the functional beauty of the agrarian architecture? Is that somehow a tie to the instruments, the aesthetic beauty of the instruments?
Yeah, I think that all ties together, right? I mean, and I love art. I love art that is good for another reason as well. But architecture and the instruments and agrarian uses and grain mills, and I think we're all attracted to them, And I grew up in New Jersey, and I can drive up the Jersey Turnpike, and I can look at some of those structures and go, wow, they don't smell good, but boy, they're beautiful.
I'm glad you can separate those things.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. So, Michele, you, like Jay said, you held up the flute. Do you still play the flute, or is that?
No, I played from like the 4th to the 8th grade, but then I didn't want to be in the high school band. So, and then I just had too much stuff going on, and I wasn't really, I didn't excel at it, and I just figured I would, in the 9th grade, I'd actually have to start trying really hard, and I just wasn't. I had other things going on. I've always been interested in art and in design. I mean, I was just more into that than I was. But I did. I made all 3 of the kids play the flute.
Oh,
We bought another one. Yeah. So that's why we have it, and I'll get it out every once in a while. But I would never play in front of everybody here.
You should parade the kids out one by one, and we could we could hold up numbers.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no.
You might get a doormat for Mother's Day if you do that. So, all right. So you only played the flute through the 8th grade.
Yeah.
Total lack of segue here. How'd you get into architecture? Was that the beginning? The quitting the flute?
Actually, that was in eighth grade. Yeah, in 8th grade. And I mean, I've given my story before, an architect and things like that. But yeah, in the 8th grade, they asked us. We had a health class, and in the health class, they said, well, what do you want to do? For the rest of your life. What occupation do you want to choose? Yeah. So, that was back in the day, right? We didn't have computers or anything. We just had a little card file, and you would go through the cards and looked, and on each of the cards was a description, with a title and a description of what that field, what that career was. So we were supposed to pick 3. So I picked drafting, architecture, artist, drafting. And architecture, I wasn't sure, my math skills really weren't good. They might still not be good, probably not. But and so I'd kind of been told that there was a lot of math in it, so I just figured, okay, well, I'll do architecture. And then I really wanted to be an artist, but I didn't know if there was going to be any money in it. and then drafting because I could probably, draft, but I wouldn't need like the math background. So that was what kind of set me on the course for architecture. So in ninth grade, I started to do we did have like some in eighth grade in the shop class because then they had opened up the shop classes to girls. Until that time, it wasn't open for girls. And so, yeah, and so I had my first experience at drafting, and let's see, also, I'm like looking at Rod's comments, but anyway, which I should stop
She
looking
in
at.
the closet.
I'm gonna take off the chat overlay, Michelle, so it doesn't distract you.
She's in the closet.
So
Jethro
then
Tull
yeah.
impersonator. Michelle's got a Jethro Tull cover band.
Yeah.
That's great. Katherine just hit all the comments, so Michelle can't read anymore.
I know. No, they're still
I'll
on the
put them
right
back on
side.
again
I
when
just
you're
gotta
not
look all the
talking
way
about
No,
over.
I get you on the right. But anyway, so then in ninth grade I took art, and then in 10th grade there was a drafting class that was offered. So I took this drafting class. I was probably one of only 3 girls in the drafting class, and then in 11th and 12th grade, there was a technical school option that you could go half a day to high school and then half a day to technical school. So I got like a 2-year, kind of taste, and then one of the, of drafting different, machine parts and everything. And then we also, designed a house. So, and I actually have that house, and I've put it in my blog before because it's kind of funny because it makes no sense. I mean, some of it does. Some of it does, but otherwise I was like, why did I put that there? And I also went to art school on Saturdays at the Art Institute of Pittsburgh, and so that kind of gave me a good art background. And I've always, drawn and painted, even from a young age. When I was in the first grade, one of my art teachers said, "Would you like to come to take classes at my house?" And she asked some of the other people, and I asked my parents, and they said yeah. So I was able to get some some real good art skills from a very young age. Not that I didn't have. I mean, I kind of, looking back, I did have kind of a creative upbringing. I mean, my parents are kind of the 60s parents. My dad drew, and he had worked for an architect for a little bit, and my stepdad is a design engineer. He designs printing presses, and my mom was kind of always, she always took us to the library, and I grew up in Pittsburgh, and so there's a lot. We went to Carnegie Mellon Museum, to see all of the the art, and and the dinosaurs. They have a fantastic dinosaur collection and everything. So that was kind of the way that I was raised, but also we were into camping and kind of doing things like that also.
So I was, you were talking about pulling the cards out of the box, which brings back memories. But and then you went into what, 1 or 2 girls or whatever in the drafting class. What was the reaction of your teacher as a girl in 8th or 9th grade, whatever it was, and you said, "I want to be an architect"? Was there any reaction to that because you were a girl, or was it just okay?
Not in the 8th grade, and definitely not from my family. I mean, I had no resistance from my own family in that. So and then when I was and in the 10th grade, when we were in that drafting class, I mean, I think that I mean, the teacher was a man, but I think he was very protective of us. I mean, I can remember one time because the girls in the class, we were very good. So even the ones that did, so it's like they really couldn't give us any of that. And I think probably, I mean, there was one thing that I could, somebody threw like one of those erasers, those, I mean, I'm sure that happens all the time, right? And those erasers that you used to like take the dirt off of the drawings with.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
the
like
bag,
threw it.
the
Yeah,
scumex.
yeah, the
Scumbag.
scumex. Yeah, scumex. So I think they like threw it. They threw it across the room, and I don't know whether they hit me or like somebody else. But anyway, that person obviously got in trouble for that. But I don't know. That's not even like just a woman thing, right? That's if you're going to throw something across the thing, you're going to get in trouble no matter what. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and then in my senior year of high school, or maybe 11th grade, the guidance counselor brought me in and she said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I want to be an architect." And she said, "Well," I believe it was in my senior year. And she said, "Well, you don't have enough math right now, so for any of the colleges around here, you're not going to be able to, apply to them because you don't have the math." And I said, at that point, my family had already moved to California. And I had already applied to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and they told me that I couldn't, it was an impacted program, so I couldn't apply because I wasn't a resident of California yet, and my parents weren't residents of California yet. So they had already found out that, that I could go to community college there, an established residency, and then transfer to Cal Poly. So that's basically what I told the guidance counselor. I said, well, it doesn't really matter because I'm not going to go to school around here. I'm going to California.
Yeah, no, see, I thought you were going to say, yeah, well, that's where the name of my blog came from, Jeff. My eighth grade teacher said I'd never met a woman architect before.
No, that's
Yeah,
that's
that would have been
Missed
perfect.
opportunity.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, that's what people say now. Not even like that's what people
Still,
even still now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
They'll
true.
say,
They
"Oh, we
say that.
knew." Yeah,
Yeah.
and especially like Katherine, your husband's an architect, right?
Hmm.
Yes. So
But he
they'll
doesn't
usually
say
say
he
like,
doesn't say that.
no. I know, I know, but as far as if you're an architecture couple, it's like when they'll say, "Oh, well, I knew that, he was an architect, but I didn't know that you were an architect." And I
Yeah.
said, "Oh, yeah, I'm an architect too." And then they'll say, "Oh, well, oh, I've never met a woman architect before." So,
yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting that they haven't.
Well, they don't
I don't know what
get
that
out
means.
much, apparently.
they
Honestly,
probably
they don't
just
get out
don't
much.
know, right? They probably
They don't
just
know.
don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't know. Yeah, they
For
don't
all
know
of
if
you
they've
that
met
are
one or not.
out there in the live studio audience, as Katherine has put up on your screen, we're gonna keep this conversation going with Michele and Jay and James, but we also want your questions. We want your comments, so you can. This is your opportunity to get to know three people from the Context and Clarity community who you probably feel like you know already. I think I recorded in the podcast this morning that there are a lot of people, right? We've been doing Context and Clarity since the beginning of April of last year. And there are a lot of people and I've met some of these folks in person, in a past life, pre-COVID or however we're classifying those things now. But there are a lot of people that I feel like I know really, really well, many of whom I've never even seen their face before and certainly have never met before. So I think this is one of the great things about Christian's idea of starting this feature is getting to know and being able to see and hear from a few members of the community at a time. So if you have questions or comments, put them up on the screen. Chris Novelli says, would love to hear some stories or challenges from the early years of your firm. So let me start with James on that one, because I know you've had some different iterations, like I'm sure most have. What about you, James?
Well,
Any challenges from the early days?
one thing that comes to mind, and it wasn't the earliest of days, but I had been had my firm for about 10 years, and I had moved back from DC. I started in DC. Out of college, I went to Washington, D.C. My first job was with HOK. I was there for several years and got licensed, and then started my own firm in D.C., moved back to Hattiesburg, Mississippi, my hometown. I would come back and visit folks and drive up and down the main street and think, boy, I could do better than that. And as one would when he's in his late 20s. And so I came back and started a firm and or moved my firm back to my hometown and grew pretty well. And this is a small metropolitan area, maybe 130, 140,000 population in the metro area. So, and you can count the architects on two hands. And so grew the firm and was taking on every single project and got up to 15 people in my firm at one point. And then after the decade, this was the decade of the 90s, towards the end of the decade, I was right on the precipice of growing to the next level. I'd kind of stabilized that there were about 10 people in the firm. And I had these. I started to develop a client base, and then in about 3 weeks' time, the 4 big projects that I had lined up, just for crazy reasons, just went poof. Mm-hmm. And I'm there, on the phone with this. You've got to be kidding me. And reasons that didn't have anything to do with me or anything that I did wrong. In fact, some of them had to do with me doing the ethical thing, and then a couple of the projects left because I did the ethical thing, and just poof, a good bit of my work, future work, was just vanished. And so, I was looking out there at 10 people making payroll. And so I made the decision to close up the firm and kind of just surrender to, because I literally said there seems to be a plan at work here, but it's obviously not mine. So I closed up the firm and everybody got jobs. And then, and so on one level, it's like this vision I had of what the firm would be in the matter of a few months, gone. And so, but went up to visit a friend in Minneapolis, came back through Wisconsin, went on the tour of Taliesin, and as the bus was coming around the corner of Taliesin, I was choking back tears. Frank Lloyd Wright, seeing his buildings was in high school was the reason I became an architect. And this was 20 years on from that. All right. By this time, 40, I guess. And one thing led to another. And then easiest thing I ever did in my life, I wound up right across the street from Taliesin in a house that was rumored to be, that's not documented, but rumored to be Frank Lloyd Wright's first design. It was for his aunt when he was 17, built when he was 17. So, and working as a draftsman for a Frank Lloyd Wright apprentice who went there in the 1940s, had his own practice. And so I took a sabbatical. A year turned into 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. I wound up staying up there for 5 years. And at the end, I got to know all the living apprentices, the senior apprentices at Taliesin, and started developing relationships with them, and got to ask them questions about firsthand experiences with Frank Lloyd Wright. And then at a certain point, also young architect, I'm like showing them my portfolio. Hey, look at this, and they're like, okay. And but at a certain point, they asked me to come on as faculty, and I taught there for a year and a half. And when I was teaching there, I lived at the house. I lived at Taliesin, and I lived at Taliesin West in the migration. And so what turned out to be what seemed to be a total obliteration of my career turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. And I never would have had those experiences if everything had just gone smoothly. If everything had gone like I had planned it, my career would have been a lot more vanilla than it is now. So I would like to say that to all of the architects out there, that just because you have a vision of what needs to happen, and if it doesn't happen, I would say be thankful for that and lean into it and see where it takes you.
That's great advice. That's a very cool story too, by the way. That yeah, we don't know. We just don't know where it's headed.
Don't know. So
laid
yeah,
plan.
we think we're in control, but circumstances move, and you really just got to go with the flow of the circumstances. Sometimes the more you resist it, the worse things get, and sometimes just a change of direction is the answer.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. See, I don't know it says Facebook user, Katherine, but there's a good question for Jay up there about the rural.
Leslie. Leslie asked that question. Would you like me to highlight that one?
If you would, please. I think that's a good one, because I know that there are a number of people in the community that are in rural, practicing in rural or less populated areas.
Wrong one. Sorry, that was another question for Jay.
Oh, that was
about the safety net for. I thought we were going to talk about our passive income plan, but
we can come back to that one too.
Okay. Well, anyway, don't let me stop you. I will find the comment. You go ahead and ask Jay the question.
All right. I'd like to hear Jay explain some of the struggles, challenges, opportunities of growing a firm in a rural area. And I think rural area, obviously, because like I said, there are some in the community, but also places like Hattiesburg. James, you just described it as a smaller metropolitan area. La Mesa is a little bit larger, being just east of San Diego. But what about people that are not in large metropolitan areas? What's it like practicing in a rural area, Jay?
And this question is from Jake Flitton, just for the record.
All right. Thanks, Jacob.
So I'm in an area, to give you a sense of how rural I am. The village where I am has a population of about 600.
That's bigger than I thought after your pig story. I mean, I was envisioning like 14 of you or something.
There are a few that have less than 600, but 600 is pretty small, Katherine. The nearest big city has about 3,000, and I can go there and rent a beautiful office space in a renovated old brick 3-story Montgomery Ward building for $65 a month.
What? Why do you have to say things like that, Jay?
Well, that's not good news.
I guess it's not.
How does that translate into fees?
It translates into fees, and it translates into into the economy of the area. And so, what I've learned being here is that we need money from out of state, and so that's what I rely on now. Is my last best customers have been from L.A., London, Boston, D.C., and somewhere in Florida. And so we have some people locally, and a lot of that work I do for the folks from the Quaker Church or from Habitat, and those are jobs that I'm happy to work on, but they don't pay the bills for the family. So yeah.
Is it possible, this idea of people from out of state, and you and I have talked about that before, the LA and the London and everything. I think about, and I've told my origin story before, going to my dad's parents' house, especially. They used to have a little small working dairy farm down in Georgia. And we used to go there all the time as an escape from Atlanta, when we lived down there. That area certainly needs some architects. Probably not too many. Dominated by the timber companies. A lot of paper. acres and acres, millions of acres of pine trees. Is it possible to practice in an area like that if you don't have, um, people coming back to build vacation homes? I mean, that's not an area where I'd build a vacation home. What do you do if you can't find those people, the LAs and the Londons, et cetera?
I raise pigs.
They don't have as many pigs down there, but they have cows.
So I moved up from New Jersey about 20 years ago, and I was very deliberate about it. I grew up. My parents were both teachers, and we spent our summers in Vermont. My parents had a friend that had an A-frame about a half a mile from a lake, and they would come up and use the A-frame every weekend, or not every weekend. They'd use it 1 week out of the summer, and we'd use it the rest of the summer. And we'd overlap a little bit with them because they had kids our age, and they were still good friends. And when my parents retired back in 1980, they moved to Vermont, and I stayed. I was in Florida when they moved to Vermont, because I had grown up in the restaurant business. I started out washing dishes before I was legal to work in a restaurant, and was a kitchen manager at 16, was a bartender at 17, and a general manager at 18. And by about 22, I decided that my primary function, the drunker I got people, the more money I made. And
that's a good,
it was unfulfilling, Katherine.
I was going to ask, is that still your practice?
That's usually true.
And does that work for architecture?
Yes,
I haven't tried it that way yet.
It does. That's the key.
I haven't tried it that way yet. Maybe they'll be more accepting of my design if they're drunk. So yeah, the more money I'll make. Yeah,
like,
okay.
It seems like clients that are drinking when you're meeting with them, they don't remember anything.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I've noticed.
The good or the bad.
Mostly the
that's
good.
time to break the bad too. Yeah.
Yeah. There was an interesting question a few minutes ago, Katherine, from Brian McCartney. If you could go back to the start of your firm, what would you do differently? I know you've been doing this a couple of years, Michele, maybe 3. If you could go back to the very beginning, what would you do differently?
I would have 27 years ago, I started my practice after my first was born.
You could have stuck with 3, really,
3. I'm totally fine with that. But I probably would have asked for more help from other people. I mean, I tend to try to do everything myself, and then because I can do it myself, it's like I think that people think like, oh, she doesn't need any help, when I do need help, and then I probably ask for help after it's too late or something. So I think I would ask for help more often, maybe have more of a plan. I mean, I kind of just decided, oh, let's see if it works. I won't go back to work after I have a baby. And then 3 weeks later, one of the architects that I had worked with at another firm, said, oh, okay, he called up and said, hey, are you ready to go back to work again? As far as doing consulting work for him. And then, I did consulting work for people, and I got projects on my own. And so it never really seemed like I had a business plan. And so like 27 years later, I'm like, well, I guess I should put together a business plan. So people were always like, somebody the other day called up and said, oh, well, I want to know like how you set up your firm and how you did it like at the very beginning. And I was like, I maybe I'm not the person for you to ask about that, because it was just serendipitous,
Yeah,
Can I say one thing that I would do?
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, this comment, let me preface it by saying that I'm not going to preface it. I would have loved to have had the Entree Architect community
Yeah.
when I started out, because in retrospect, I was really going it alone. I mean, once I went in, but I didn't start out saying, "Oh, I'm never going to have a partner." It just never a partner didn't appear that I was compatible with. So, and unfortunately, in my little town, the architects here are very competitive and not collaborative. And so I was really going it alone. And this last year of especially context and clarity and having all of these issues coming out helped me to, even though maybe I've experienced a lot of the things that we talk about, it sharpens my knife, really. And as you get older, actually, it's not that you mail it in, but sometimes you take little shortcuts because it's like, well, I'm just not into 16-hour days anymore. And but having the community talk about issues, and sometimes issues that, okay, yeah, I guess I should be aware of that issue, but I put it out of my mind. And then issues that I'm dealing with, and somebody has an insight, it just helps me get. Clarity is a great title for the program. It helps me get a little clarity, but it also helps me feel like I'm not alone doing this. And so over the last year, it's really sharpened my game. I've been in practice 30 years, but it's really sharpened my game to the point where I went out and bought this. And this is a 1926 Gibson, beautiful tone. Well, I got to pick in there, but I went out there. Listen to that. Beautiful tone. This is the second most expensive instrument in the house next to my wife's grand piano. But I went out and I was able to write a check for it and not lose any sleep over it. And that was a very satisfying feeling.
That's
To not
awesome.
feel like either I didn't have the money or I had to hold the money back because I didn't know where the next job was coming from. So it's helped me plan. It's helped me look into the future. And that's the thing that I would have liked to have had, is a community of architects to bounce things off of.
I love that example because I know even though we have Entree Architect, and you think about in the Facebook group, there's something like 7,100 members or something like that. And I don't know, I haven't looked at the statistics lately, but even if a large number of that 7,000 are active in the group, let's just say it's 5,000, just for round numbers, that means that there's hundreds of thousands of architects that are not, right? They're not in that group. And there's other things out there, but there's an awful lot of people going it alone. There's an awful lot of people reinventing the wheel. They don't know any better. They want to reinvent the wheel, whatever the reason is. But thank you for saying that. And that big package of M&Ms is on its way. Jay's disappointed. They still haven't arrived. I told them they'd be there by the end of our conversation.
Don't believe him, James. He's promised me M&Ms too.
He told me blue M&Ms.
It doesn't. They're not coming. It doesn't.
So
matter.
the truth
They're
is,
not coming. Bottom line, doesn't matter what color, they will not arrive.
Right.
And no little finger sandwiches either.
No, we got to step up our game.
The
Green room was totally empty.
The neighbor kids are going through the package of M&Ms right now, and they're separating out the greens for Jay and the blues for James. And Michelle, what color did you want?
Oh, look what Nicole said. This is really sweet, I think. So Nicole says, I agree. Just being part of this group and knowing I have a network behind me and get advice from has made me feel more confident in myself. I'm just as lost as the rest of you, but not lost and alone anymore. That's the way I feel too. I'm not lost and alone. I'm still lost, but not alone.
At least we could be nomads together, I guess.
Yeah.
We should
Right.
get together for a festival. I think we mentioned this somebody mentioned this, maybe it was me, in the green room. We should get together at Jay Caroli's for a festival and call it a Jeff Eckel Fest or something like that. And bring your instruments, bring your sleeping bag, and we'll go to Jay's farm and have our own little Woodstock.
There you go.
How about that?
We'll call it
And
Clarity
drink some
Fest
pig
or
slop.
something like
Yeah,
that.
that would be fun.
Ecclestock. I think that's what you.
Ecclestock.
Yeah,
Ecclestock.
That
Right.
would definitely be fun.
I don't know if
Work on the menu.
Always.
if
And
you're
something
listening
for the
to
rest of us.
if you're listening to the podcast version of this, we've just got to apologize now because you don't get to see the comments that are streaming along the side right now. But we're having some fun today. There's some good comments.
Oh, Echopalooza's good.
Yeah, I kind of like that one. Echopalooza.
Yeah.
We could do that one. We could do that one. At Jay's farm.
Echopalooza. That's the best one.
Let's see. What's this? I'm starting my own architecture firm, but besides listening to Entre Architect, I'm blessed to have a group. There you go. Group of friends who are doing that too. So we meet weekly for support to share our personal stories and accountability. We also invite other architects. That's fantastic.
Who is
right?
that?
That is Luciana Triplet. And the rest of her comment says, we also invite other architects to share their experience with us. So if anyone here would like to do so, please let me know.
Yeah, that's excellent. I mean, one of the things, right? And this is not necessarily a commercial for Entre Architect Academy, but there's a mastermind level that if you wanted to join, you could become a part of a mastermind inside Entre Architect, which is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
We often call context and clarity, or Rod calls our context and clarity conversations our daily mini mastermind group. There's all kinds of opportunities, whether you start it yourself or you find another one, to build communities like this. If we think back to the Seth Godin conversation that we had, I don't know, Katherine, how many weeks ago was that? 6 weeks ago, maybe now, talking about one of the things that he said was think about building community and supporting community. And I think, that this is a great example. And Katherine, I know you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I was just wondering, why do we call it mini mastermind when it should be kind of mega mastermind? Because there's so many people in it as every single day. Would be like not mini. It's like Jay and I are in the same mastermind, but it's once a week. So to me, this seems like way more intense.
So we got to rename it. All right,
Mega
Rod,
mastermind. I think
Rod, we've got to rebrand it.
Yeah.
Mondo Mastermind or something big.
That's good.
Thanks for joining us for our Mondo Master. It's going to take me a while to
Mondo Mastermind. You just have to
process. The processor may be a little bit slow right now. I know we've made it to the top of the hour very, very quickly today, which is fun. I mean, that's one of the great things about conversations like this. So as we head out, well, first of all, let me just give you a preview of tomorrow, because tomorrow for Context and Clarity, we'll go back to our mini-series on digital and social media platforms, things you can do online, basically, as an architect. It'll be a little bit different because it's not technically, it's not like we're talking Facebook. It's not like we're talking about Clubhouse, I think we talked about last week. We're going to talk about podcasting for architects tomorrow. So it's not technically a digital or social platform. It's content. It's a content platform, but it's definitely digital. Or I guess maybe you could press it on a record. I don't know. But anyway,
no.
No? Okay.
No, you can't. Don't lead people astray, Jeff.
Columbia House. It could be Columbia House for architects.
Yeah.
Podcast on.
Do people even know what Columbia House is anymore?
Probably not.
Well, we all do. That's the thing that matters.
I still owe them money.
That's why they're not around anymore. For those of you that don't know, James was the downfall of Columbia House Records.
Right. The stacks of invoices just keep piling up.
There you go.
Every month you get a new record.
That's the way it,
10
that's
for
the way it
99
works.
cents beginning. Yeah, right.
There you go.
Only in the beginning.
But the good news is you can get podcasts for free.
Yeah,
There are
they're
ways you
perfect.
can get
They're
podcasts.
totally free.
They're totally free. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. I was thinking about this as we were planning out weeks and weeks ahead, and almost every single one of our Context and Clarity live guests so far have their own podcast. Catherine's got a podcast. I've got a podcast. I know many of you have podcasts. Michele has a podcast. So, we'll talk about that tomorrow, the opportunities, the things that you could do with a podcast as an architect. And so that'll be the topic for tomorrow. We'll talk about that on Clubhouse tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. And of course, Context and Clarity at 4 p.m. Eastern inside the Entre Architect Community Facebook group. But before we close out, I know someone asked this, I guess it was Leslie, right, that asked this question earlier. I kind of flipped it around on Katherine, but she was talking about this idea that Jay had presented
Oh, yeah, that one.
a month or two ago, maybe, or longer. I don't remember. But this idea of a safety net, is that what we want to call it? A way to support each other as small business owners, as small firm architects. So, Jay, can you tell us about the project to create a safety net for solo and small firm architects?
Yeah, I don't know that it's a project yet. It's an idea, and the idea came from somebody in the group being ill, and they're a solo architect, and people ran to support him, and I thought that was fantastic, and I liked seeing that, and I thought, what about the rest of the people who aren't seen, and how do we support them? And so, being up here in the sticks of Vermont, when your neighbor's barn burns down, the neighbors run over and save the animals, pull out the sheep and the cows, put them in their barn, help around the house and the farm, and then rebuild the barn. And there was a farmer that I've done some work with in the past, and he's a big organic farmer up here, and he had a fire, and his support came out in such a large amount because he was so well known and had such a great personality, similar to the person who got sick on Entre Architect. They're public figures, and they're well known, and they're liked, they're loved, and so they're supported. And so I took that idea to say, is there a way that we can support each other? And that's kind of where I left it. And then if anybody's listening that's interested, reach out to me, and you can join the Facebook page that we started. And in there right now, well, there it is. Thank you, Katherine. She's good.
Oh, no, that wasn't me. That was Jeff.
You could have taken the credit for that.
Huh. Jeff's good too, I guess. All right.
Jeff's better than I am.
I wouldn't say that.
And so it's grown into a couple of different ideas, startup money, seed money, idea money, and how do we get that money, and different ideas about how we get that money, and then how do we distribute that money, and so mutual aid society, and for architects and designers.
Yeah, that's a great idea, and I remember when this popped up in one of the Context and Clarity conversations, and nothing like that had ever dawned on me. And and I know the context that Jay is talking about and everything, but wow, what a need and what a powerful idea. So check out what's on the screen right now. Artemis is the name of the group in Facebook. So check that out and see what you think. Maybe add some ideas there, and maybe add some assistance there, and let's figure out how to support each other. And I think maybe the appropriate way to close out this conversation today. And before we do that, I want to say thank you first to Katherine, as always, for being here with me. And you guys can play your way out of here if you want. But thanks to Katherine, not only for today, but for filling in all week. It's been a week. And to each of you, to Michele and Jay and to James for being here. I think it's a lot of fun to have members of the community here. And we'll probably, I'm looking at the spreadsheet right now, we'll probably schedule this about every other Friday, have 2 or 3 or whatever number of people on the screen with us. And so one of the things I would say is, if you're interested, if you're willing, let me back it up to that. If you're willing to be on the screen, because I know it's a leap for some people, if you're willing to be on the screen and be a part of the conversation, Jay's already say it's a leap. Message me or message Katherine so that we can get you scheduled for this. It's easier than it looks, and it looks really easy to me. So this is not it's not something that's going to kill you. It'll be okay. I promise. So if you're willing to do this and help the community get to know you and help us all get to know each other, just reach out to one of us so that we can get you going with that. But why don't we do this? Maybe we'll start with Michele. What's one encouragement or one piece of advice, Michele, that you have for the context and clarity, the Entre Architect community as we roll this up today?
I'm working on this this Shiro's international conference, and so one of the things I was saying is like designing your life the way that you want to live it. So it's like you can don't compare yourself to others, and just kind of be design like you did in school, where it was your project, and maybe people can give their critique on it, but really it's like you're going to be the architect of your own life.
I love that. I love that. That's so true.
That is excellent. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm going to try to find where can they find out more about Shiro's?
I think you can Google it. It's on my Michele Grace Hottel Architect Facebook page. Sarah Collada and Lisa Raines have posted it on LinkedIn, and they've posted a lot of the different Facebook groups that we're part of. I think that they might even be in the Entre Architect face group, maybe.
Okay.
It's been popping up a lot.
Yeah, it's May 12th to the 14th.
There it is. Okay.
And it's UK time.
Okay. So this is I'm gonna put a link green, which is, it's gonna be hard because it's a bunch of numbers, but you can look it up on Facebook here. So
8900317717779718.
Got it.
And I think it might be under Sarah Collada. Sarah SARAKOLATA.
On Facebook or where?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll look it up there, and and we can always drop this into the I wonder, maybe if I put it in the comments, it might be maybe it'll be a hot link. The link on, there it goes.
Okay.
Hang on one second here. Sorry. This is
dangerous. I can try to do it while you keep talking, Jeff.
I grabbed it. Sorry. That's just.
You just have to do it yourself. I understand.
Well, I'm used to it. Sorry.
So my superhero is I am Arkham. That's my superhero.
Cool.
Everybody has a superhero. So.
Nice.
I like that.
Yeah. Check that out. I've seen some of the promotions for that. It looks very, very cool. So there's
Evelyn Lee's also on there.
Yeah,
she's
very good.
Be there. Yeah.
Yeah, some great women involved in that. So thanks for being a part of that. James,
There's a podcast. I have to say, there's a
Good.
group. There's 7. They're recent graduates, and their podcast is 1 to 100, and they're these 7 women, and they're just fabulous, and they have a podcast, and it's just great. So they're also
Cool.
going to be guests. Yes.
Oh, good. They're also very active on Clubhouse too, for all of you Clubhouse
Yeah.
people that are out there. So very cool. Thank you for that, James. What piece of advice or encouragement do you have?
Okay, well, Michelle, I think that was an incredible piece of advice, and I was going to give a version of that of being designing your own career, your own life, and I would just add on to that. Write it down when you're visioning something. That keep a journal or a series of journals and write it down and get as specific as you can. And I've found that helps maybe calibrate the psyche and magnetizes that idea, and it pulls it to you. I've written down things that maybe even a couple of words, and I go back and like one of the projects I'm working on right now. 5 years ago, I wrote down I want to work on that project, and totally out of my control, it came to me.
Nice.
It's an old building in town that's very handsome, and I want to work on that project, and it just gravitated to. And where they were calling me, I didn't make the overture. And so I would say write down your vision and keep writing down your vision. And then one practical, that didn't count because that was piling on to Michelle. So I'm going to give a very practical thing for young architects. Keep your overhead as low as possible. If you don't absolutely have to have it, even if you think you have to have it, you may not, check once, twice, 3 times. You probably don't need it. And if you can keep your overhead low, that frees you up to do a lot more in your career.
That's great advice. Excellent advice. Thank you for that, James. And, you mentioned at the very beginning this idea of designing your career. And I thought, what's he doing? Like looking at my spreadsheet? Because next week, our special guest on Thursday will be Christine Williamson from Building Science Fight Club. And then the week after that, we'll have Maya Sharfy, and the topic will actually be designing your career. So that's there you go.
And we talked about that on Monday, James. I don't think you were there, but we talked about manifesting on Monday.
Oh, yeah. Couldn't make that one.
Yep, we got a lot of good suggestions for that.
Sometimes you had to work.
Yeah, I wouldn't know about that.
Yeah, I'll bet you do. All right, Jay. What's one piece of advice or encouragement that you have for the community, Jay?
So I had a first year studio professor at Brookdale Community College, because after working in restaurants for years, I started carpentry, and then I had to go to community college in order to get back into school. And he, in some side conversation, said, "Don't ever compromise." And I still remember that. And I think it echoes and piggybacks on what Michelle and James were saying. Design your future, design your life. And I didn't listen to that until I came to Entree Architect and heard people say it over and over and over and over again. And so in the last 2 or 3 years, I'm doing what I want to do, and life has never been better.
Good.
And I think it's great advice.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. Katherine, got anything you want to?
No, I am not there to give good advice. I'm just listening today. But I am inspired by those. I am going to design my life or my career right now tonight and write it down and see what comes to me. And I'm going to try not to compromise anymore. And my husband is going to thank you, Jay.
And don't buy mom a doormat.
Don't buy mom a doormat.
And where did we land on clothes on Mother's Day? Are we
Optional,
for it or
optional.
against it? Optional?
I want to know where we landed on Echols Fest at Jay's farm.
We say definitely thumbs up to that.
That's happening.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's
All right.
happening.
All right. We'll figure that out. We will figure that out. Well, Michele and Jay and James, thank you very much for joining Katherine and I for this conversation today.
Yep. It was supposed to be
Thank
the
you.
Cat's Away show, but he showed up early. Cat's back sooner than we thought show.
Caught us.
Yep.
It's okay.
Happy to be back, but if you want to have a Cat's Away show, you can do that too. It's fine.
No, we're
with
happy
me.
that you're back. I'm just joking.
Thank you for that. And to all of you out there, our Mondo Masterminders, thank you for joining us today. As always, I'll be back here again tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern inside the Entree Architect Community Facebook group, same bat time, same bat channel. And like I said, tomorrow we'll go back to our weekly mini-series on digital and social. We'll talk about podcasting for architects. So if you've got one, come talk about it. If you don't have one, come tell us why not, or ask the questions you have. If you wanted to start one, there's a lot of people in this community. There's a lot of podcasts out there. There's a lot of upside, I think, just like we talked about with Clubhouse last week. I think there's some real opportunities there. You got to know what you're trying to accomplish in order to set those goals and go after them. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. Podcasting for architects. And of course, if you want to get the party started early, join me on Clubhouse tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern for the same, ironically or not, the same topic tomorrow, podcasting for architects. I don't know if Katherine is going to be there. I think this week has worn her out. But,
No, I'll be there. I just might not say anything. That'll be nice.
yeah.
Catherine?
Well, it's just kind of hard because you get on there and you say, so here's the topic. Anybody? And then it's just crickets for a while. And you're like, well, okay,
Sometimes
I guess
you gotta
I'll
work
talk
a little bit.
more.
That's called vamping.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
vamp until somebody comes in.
That's true.
Ours is 6 a.m. Like I told you, if you want to hear me not say anything, then I'll be on Clubhouse at 6 a.m.
Somebody asked, we get that suggestion. Well, what 9 a.m. is really early on the West Coast. Why don't you do something a little bit later? So, well, I've already drank all the coffee by later, so how can I have a coffee talk at like noon, right? So sorry, West Coasters. It is. We know it's an early rise. Maybe the coffee will help. But with that, thank you, everyone. I say this every day, and I really do mean this. Please take care of yourself. Be well, stay well, take care of those that are close to you. A lot of crazy stuff going on. Keep yourself safe and well, and everybody that you care about safe and well. And take a little bit of time to breathe tonight. Get rejuvenated and come back. We're going to do this again tomorrow, so you better rest up. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Thank you.